What's good, everybody? Hopefully you guys are doing good, and we are back today for another video. Now before I begin, this is my Twitter channel. In case you guys are not following on Twitter, what are you waiting for? The fun never ends. Go ahead and click follow. I show you guys my dividend of investing as it comes in. The dividends, I post them here, and also it's a great way if you want ask a question I can respond to you quickly. I check this pretty frequently, so this is the best way to get in contact with me if you have any questions. Alright, so what are we going to talk about today, guys? Well, it's that time again. I know, the stimulus issue. Now, there's been a few developments as to why this thing is dragging out so long. I'm going to go over it here in a little bit, and then I got a few other topics with the stock market I'm going to cover on the back end of this video so you can kind of see what's going on. Alright, so the first thing we got here, second stimulus check. What's the current disagreement between Democrats and Republicans? Alright, let's take a look here. Trump told Business News that stimulus package negotiations have stalled due to the post office and the $3.5 billion for mail-in voting. That's a new development. Have you guys heard about this? Apparently the stall has something to do with post office and the funding the post office needs. Now I'm going to give a breakdown here so we can see what does this all mean. Now before I continue with this one, have you guys ever been to the USPS? Because I'm going to be straight up with you guys. This is a channel where I'm going to tell you the truth. If you don't like the truth, you can leave. Peace out. However, here's the thing. I went to the post office a couple times to mail things, and I'm just going to be completely honest. My experience has been absolutely horrendous. It's been horrible, guys. I went twice and I didn't have tape. I asked them for tape and they were tripping out saying, oh, I need to bring my own tape and this and that. Look, I don't have tape. It takes like 10 cents. Just give me some tape. Y'all got tape over there. What are you giving me a hard time for? With that being said, my experience has not been good, and I will give you guys more of a breakdown with that in a couple tabs here. Now let's see what has been going down. Donald Trump said on Thursday he laid out the main stumbling blocks preventing the White House and senior Democrats from reaching a consensus on a fresh package between the two parties. Republicans and Democrats aimed to reach a deal before the Senate went into recess on August 7th, but negotiators from both sides failed to agree on a variety of issues, including funding for states and unemployment benefits. Yeah, guys, so while we're out here trying to figure out how we're going to survive, the people that we're going to pay to make decisions for us on our behalf to represent us are on their vacation again. And there isn't really much of a sense of urgency to get a whole lot done. That's kind of where we're at. If we don't make the deal, they can't have the money. Now here is a meeting Mike Pence had and Betsy DeVos and Kellyanne. They went to schools and talked about reopening, but nobody's wearing a mask, which I don't really have a strong stance on the mask, but from what I'm reading, at least having something to cover up helps to reduce the bug. From what I'm reading, that's not expert advice. Do your own research. However, I think with these things going on right now, wearing a mask is better than not wearing a mask. That's just me personally. Alright. Trump suggested that the U.S. Postal Service and his personal bugbear, mail-in voting, were to blame for the stalled negotiations. Trump said his negotiators have resisted Democrats' call for additional money to help U.S. election officials prepare for presidential contest during a bug that has killed more than 165,000 Americans. The items are the post office and the $3.5 for mail-in voting, Trump said, adding Democrats want to give the post office $25 billion. If you don't make the deal, that means they can't have the money. That means they can't have universal mail-in voting. It just can't happen. Now, I recall Trump has been talking about that, the whole mail-in voting, and how he's not really a great supporter for it. He sees fraud and all these things as a potential, and that's understandable with everything going down these days with hacking and mail getting lost and people having a hard time voting in various areas of the country. It's understandable where he's coming from. The only question is, what would be the alternative with things going the way they are? Would they just limit the amount of people who go vote at one time? Would it take longer to vote? All questions we're going to have to wait and see. And like I said, right now we are in August. It's going to be a couple more months until we see what's going to happen with the elections, and Joe Biden having Kamala Harris as his running mate. It's going to be a very interesting election cycle because she's popular among people on the left, and it's going to really be a matter of preference to see what's going to happen, which viewpoints are going to win out here. All right, now let's see what everyone's favorite Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, has said. Democrats have compromised repeatedly. We have made clear to the Trump administration we are willing to come down $1 trillion if they come up $1 trillion. So in case you guys aren't aware, the Democrats, their package was about $3 trillion, and Republicans was about $1 trillion. And they're trying to have about $2 to $2.2 trillion. But the issue is what gets spent and what doesn't get spent. That's kind of where we are at the moment. All right, let's see what else we got here. Mnuchin and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows have not met with House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in 6 days. Both sides remain some $2 trillion apart in their bug relief funding. All right, let's see what Trump has to say here. This was August 11th, a couple days ago. More testing, which is a good thing. We have the most in the world equals more cases, which is fake news gold. They use cases to demean the incredible job being done by the great men and women of the U.S. fighting the bug. Washington Post reported that the U.S. recorded almost 1,500 bug-related deceased individuals on Wednesday, marking the deadliest day of the bug in the country since mid-May. Yeah, this thing is still out of control, and like I said, with the holidays coming up, people tend to get more sick during this time of the year. We're going to have to wait and see what the impact is going to be and how to adapt to it. Now, the next thing I have here, second stimulus check may not go out until September as relief talks drag on. Yeah, so if you were expecting a check to come in the mail soon, you might have to wait. Like I said, these guys are on vacation. They work hard. They need time off. They're going to go on their little recess because they just had a recess recently and maybe come back and maybe have a deal. September is quite a bit away, another month. A stalemate over the next bug aid package could drag on for weeks, possibly into September. Americans eager for a second stimulus payment may have to wait until September to receive the cash. This is from an IRS insider, so that's a good source, IRS. All right, let's continue on here. Let's see if we have any new information. They just kind of break down how much you would get, which we already know, if you make over X amount. All right, let's see what we got here. Steve Mnuchin on Wednesday called on Democrats to pass a skinny $1 trillion deal with measures that deeply divided parties can agree on. My view on negotiations is to agree on things that you can agree on, half legislation that's good for American public, and then come back for another bill. Yeah, I like that idea. I'll give credit to that because that could work. I mean, both sides can agree on the stimulus check. Why don't you just mail that out for $1 trillion and then come back so people can at least do something, and then get the rest of the deal hashed out when you get back. That makes sense to me. Again, they're going to send a package out anyways, so if they're going to send out the checks, the sooner the better, and that could be a good compromise in the meantime. Now, before I continue on here as well, the markets today were slightly down. The Dow Jones down about 80 points, S&P about 6.92, so really not a whole lot of movement. It's still been pretty consistent, and it's getting close to record levels. The bug stimulus stalemate could drag on for weeks as Congress leaves town. Yes, they're on vacation, guys. The key points: Congress and the White House again made no progress towards a bug relief agreement as financial lifelines for Americans continue to expire. This is from CNBC. It could take 2 more weeks for lawmakers to even agree on another package as no talks are scheduled, and 2020 political conventions will consume the major parties for the next 2 weeks. That is correct. They're going to have to be campaigning and try to get voters on their side, depending on what they're trying to push at this point in time. House Speaker Pelosi said she will not restart discussions until Republicans increase their aid offer by $1 trillion, a step the GOP does not want to take. And we got everyone's favorite speaker right here showing what is going down. Okay, so that is something I didn't know. She does not want to even have a discussion, not even start, unless there is an additional $1 trillion. Now, quick little side note here. If you guys are living in California, I used to be in California, Uber has decided to shut down temporarily in California. Let me know, how does that affect you guys? If you're driving out there, have you guys, does the app even let you sign on? I mean, how do you guys even work out there under Uber and Lyft? I'm just curious. Because like I said, California, they're a whole new country at this point. When I used to live there, they had a lot of different things that were difficult, the taxes and all. Anyways, that's a whole nother video. Let's continue on here. Okay. What else do we got? 2020, the Democrats, I don't know when they come in with $2 trillion. Oh, this is on Thursday. Pelosi said she does not have a timeline for when the sides will talk again. We can't wait until September 30th. People will, she's used a term that I don't want to use. People will suffer. We'll just go with that. All right. A fifth bug package has gone nowhere in 2.5 weeks as financial lifelines continue to fall by the wayside. U.S. job market has showed signs of improving despite sustained American failure to contain the bug. U.S. unemployment rate of 10% in July stood slightly higher than at any point during the Great Recession. Yeah, things are not looking too good, guys. This is why I say you need to take your financials into your own hands at this point. Take control. Find multiple ways to diversify. Get into assets. Whatever you got to do. Talk to an expert in your area so you can best plan for yourself and your families, because there is no guarantees right now, guys. There's a lot of uncertainty. We just got to wait and see. Why the next package may be delayed until September. This is from Forbes, another resource I like to use. Both sides propose legislation, but the parties are far apart. Democrats and Republicans differ drastically on federal spending. Republicans will accept a piecemeal approach. Democrats won't. Talks for weeks, but nothing has really changed. Many Republicans won't support a stimulus package. Some Republicans think Trump's executive orders are enough. Where do we go from here? We're going to have to wait and see. Congress acts, expect delays in federal unemployment benefits, direct payments, school funding, state and local aid, and other issues. Of course, Congress could address these retroactively, but until there's an agreement, nothing is guaranteed. Now, back to what I was saying earlier about the USPS. Trump draws hard line on USPS installed relief talks. All right, let's continue on here. This is a short one. All right, here we go. They want $25 billion for the post office because the post office is going to have to go to town to get these great, ridiculous ballots in. Trump said August. This is today, so this is fresh off the press. The $3.5 billion they want to pay for mail-in ballots is for something that'll turn out to be fraudulent, he added. Even though there is no evidence that voting by mail opens door to widespread fraud. Okay. Yeah, that's something else that is keeping Democrats and Republicans from coming to an agreement. The funding for the USPS, like I said, my experience hasn't been too good with them. Trump opposes USPS funding, says mail voting hard without it. Got another article just basically confirming that. All right. The President of the U.S. is sabotaging a basic service that hundreds of millions of people rely on, cutting a critical lifeline for rural economics and for delivery of medicines. This is from the Biden camp, Biden spokesperson. All right. While there is some common ground over the $100 billion for schools and new, see, that's the thing. If they can agree on funding for schools, which, okay, they want to agree to fund schools, fine, and they can agree that we are going to have some type of stimulus check come in again, why don't you just pass that for now, and then you can go take your vacation, and then you can come back and figure out the rest of the package. Like I said, things don't make a whole lot of sense. If you're confused, don't worry. You're not the only one. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Second stimulus check update. U.S. Postal Service funds are a sticking point in the negotiation, Trump says. And let's see. President Trump this morning, why he won't fund it. Now they need that money in order to make the post office work so it can take all these millions and millions of ballots. But if they don't get those two items, that means you can't have universal mail-in voting. And yeah, that was fresh off the press today. So it appears that Trump is really concerned about the whole mail-in voting and the fraudulent issues that come with that. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see where things go. If they're just going to have it like before, you just go someplace and you vote, Why does a USPS lose money? The USPS lost money in 6 out of 10 years from 2001 through 2010. By the end of the decade, the semi-independent government agency losses had reached a record $8.5 billion, forcing the Postal Service to consider seeking an increase in its $15 billion debt ceiling or face insolvency. Alright, just another, look at this, billions of dollars lost. Another example of why the private sector is better than public sector. There we go, I said it, okay? The private sector can do this a lot better than the public because, like I said, they have unlimited funds. They don't really have a whole lot to compete with. The private sector has a lot of competition. They got to compete. They got to get the best service. They got to help their customers out. When I go to the UPS store and FedEx, I always have had great interactions. The employees are more than friendly. They'll do whatever they can do to take care of you, and I like that. That's the type of place I want to go to. I don't want to go to some place and they're going to argue with me about tape. I don't got time for that nonsense. Alright, and as far as the bug updates, we are going to get close to wrapping up this video. Worldwide, the cases and the people who are not doing so well are still going up. Recoveries are also decent. Now here's something that was interesting, guys. For those of you who live in New York, I am curious. The bug impact on Manhattan real estate. There are now over 13,000 empty apartments in Manhattan, an all-time high. That's interesting. Let's play a little game here. I want you guys to guess what is the average cost to rent an apartment here. I'm gonna give you about 2 seconds. Okay, let's take a look here. I looked it up actually. This is from Zumper. They got prices for housing. The median rent, $2,425. The average rent for a studio apartment in New York is $2,425. This is a 10% decrease from the previous year. So that is quite a lot for rent. And then you add in your utilities and all that good stuff. You're close to $3,000 just for a place to live per month. Forget about all the rent. I mean all your other expenses. You gotta pay for your cars. You gotta pay for internet, your phone, food, buying consumer goods. It's understandable why the numbers are where they are. Now, the last segment of this video, I want to go over the market today of what we saw. S&P, as I had mentioned, pretty much been stagnant. It's close to record highs, barely down, not a whole lot. S&P 500 closes lower as run to record high falls short again from CNBC. Dow Jones also barely dropped. Here's what happened to the stock market on Thursday, in case you guys were not aware. The Dow slid, like I said, barely dropped. S&P 500 failed to break above its all-time high, once again despite stronger than expected unemployment data. Initial jobless claims below 1 million. Shares of Cisco Systems dropped 11% after the tech company issued weaker than expected earnings for guidance for the quarter. United Airlines, Delta, and American fell more than 1%. Now, I made a video a while back about the airline industry. I have not invested a penny into any of the airlines. I don't plan on doing it. I also have not invested into Cisco, but it's been on the watch list, so I might look at that going forward here. Again, not investing advice, not financial advice. Talk to an expert, and they can decide what's best for your situation, given your financial goals and all that good stuff. Stocks making the biggest moves after hours: Applied Materials, Baidu, and more. Does anybody own these stocks, by the way? Because I don't, and I'd be curious what your experience has been. I know Baidu is the Chinese company, and all these other companies, Myriad Genetics, Farfetch, Applied Materials, I don't have a penny in any of these. If you guys do, let me know in the comments below. And I've had people asking me about dividend investing and making more videos around that, and I definitely will. Like I said, there is a lot to cover. I like to be very thorough with dividend investing and how I look at things. But here is a little preview for another breakdown. So right now, Cisco, as I had mentioned, this is Simply Safe Dividends. This is not a sponsored video. It's just a website I like to use. It's a screener. There's a lot of websites where you can screen stocks. Now, this is very, very important. I don't just use the screener and then make my decision based off of my screener. This is a tool that gives me more information, and I continually, like I do here guys, where I don't just give you one article on the stimulus check situation, right? I give you multiple. I do research. It's thorough. Same thing here. I look at the information and I continue. I would go to the website. I would check their annual reports. I do a whole bunch of stuff before I ever get invested into it. However, let's take a look here. The dividend yield is about 3.37%, which that's pretty safe. And right now the rating is very safe. The dividend growth has been 4%, which is slow. It is a mega cap, which I like. 203 billion. The price is 42, down about 11%. Cisco's very safe rating suggests the company dividend is highly unlikely to be cut. We reviewed Cisco on May 14th. And as you can see, they give you the notes on it. Payout ratio, low for most companies, 44%. Like I said, it's going to vary by industry, but 44% isn't bad for me. Around 50% depending on the industry. Like I said, real estate is going to be completely different than other type of stocks. But to keep it simple, 44% is not bad. 9 years without a reduction in the dividend streak. Recession dividend, no dividends paid previous to 2009. All right, we can continue on here. The dividend growth, like I said, they've just started paying since 2010. The last 4 years it's been slow. Last 5 years it's been very fast. 9 years of consecutive increase, 9 years without a reduction. Per share, you're going to be getting $1.44, and it shows you the months that they're expected to pay their dividends and how much you'll be expected to get for having one share of that stock. Now, of course, it can fluctuate depending on the price of the stock and depending on the dividend. Sometimes if the stock drops, the dividend will slightly go up to kind of mediate for that loss, but it just depends. And once again, do your own research, talk to an expert. This is not investing advice. I'm just talking out loud here, trying to basically stimulate your curiosity so you can do more research and make your own decisions. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at when I'm deciding on if I want to get into a stock or not. Of course, look at this. There's a lot more information here. I would go through all this very thoroughly, quarterly, annually, go to the website, spend many hours before you make a decision, because you're putting your hard-earned money into a company, and you got to make sure it's very thorough what you're doing, and you got to know what you're doing. Talk to an expert. Alright guys, so that's going to be the next video. As always, if you're not subscribed, don't subscribe. And if you're not following me on Twitter, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. Leave your comments, leave your questions, leave your strategy. What are you guys doing? What are you looking at going forward? And as always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, peace.